Welcome to this first test lesson of my online course about sketching. Great to have you here. I prepared a very cool task for you today because we're going to draw a glass of iced tea or any liquid, any drink you would like to draw. I prepared a first sketch, so to draw a drink is very easy. If you take a look here on my iPad, you can draw 3 different ellipses. You can connect it with those lines and you have something that looks a little bit similar to a drink. But if we would like to upgrade this illustration or this sketch, it's very easy. And that's exactly the thing we would like to do in the next couple of minutes. We can change from this to this very easy. And I'll tell you everything about it step by step here in this first lesson. First of all, before we would like to start with sketching and before we upgrade this illustration from here to here and we're going to talk about today's task, I would like to introduce the main features or the things we need here in Adobe Fresco. You can work in any other app you would like to sketch or any other app you feel comfortable with. So for example, Procreate or any free app you'll find in the App Store, that's absolutely fine. So it works with those apps too. But if you would like to use Adobe Fresco as well, then here a quick introduction. So let's start with the brush. I'm working with the normal pencil. You find it here, different topics, basic, comics, all the stuff you need. So feel free to check it out. But down here is the sketching topic or the sketching folder. And the first one is the pencil. I highlighted it with this little star and it's selected up here. So that's the pencil of my choice. Down here you have a few specific settings you can choose from. So for example, the size, I pick the size 5 and the flow is at 100%. And as a color, I don't go down here to 100% black, but something like this, so a darker gray. So that should be the perfect setting to create this pencil look, and we can sketch with it. So feel free to use the same for your video, or if you're working with other apps, try to create something similar to this brush. Another very important tool we need for our sketch is the eraser tool. So if we make any mistakes, I'm sure we don't make any mistakes, but very important is the eraser tool. So you can erase different stuff. You'll find it in Adobe Fresco right here. We can move things if we tap on this icon. So that's also very helpful. And we have right here different layers, so we can create new ones and we can delete them. Very important, I'll explain every feature and every detail in my online classes. So if you would like to join, feel free to do that. I would love to see you there. But in this first test lesson, I'm going to start with this short, quick guide. And I guess we have everything to work on this sketch right here. So it's time to say goodbye to this beautiful sketch because we're going to recreate it in the next couple of seconds. So let's create a new layer right here, and we need our pencil again right here, all the settings we used before, and we need our first drawing aid. So down here you have different tools. For example, the ruler, you can use it as a normal ruler, as you probably already know it with the traditional art, and you can use it to draw straight lines. On the other hand, if we tap down here and we hold, you can see there is a quick menu with a few other drawing aids. For example, the circle, we can also change it to use it as an ellipse. So super important if we want to draw our glass in a couple of seconds. And you can also use a square. You can change it to a rectangle or a polygon. So there are different drawing aids. Important for our artwork right here is the ruler and of course the circle. So let me just clear up my layers so that everything is empty again. And we'll start with the circle, and we can use the same perspective as we used here, but you can also use another one. So let's start with this ellipse. I close the menu down here, and if you use this dotted line, you can draw a first ellipse. Now let's create a new layer. It's super important if you're working on a sketch to separate each part from each other. We can merge it down after we finished our sketch, but it's super important because sometimes we would like to erase on a special layer, or we would like to add a few details or shadows on a specific part of our object. So make sure you use all the layers you can create right here. So now we need our second drawing aid, so our ruler, and we're going to draw two lines that are linked with our ellipse. So something like this. And if we finish this task, we can tap down here like this, and the ruler is disappearing, so perfect. I zoom a little bit in because we don't need our glass as well, so I put it up here to focus on our new drawing. And first thing we do, we tap right here on our first ellipse. We need the second one down here, so the first sketch is very similar to our drawing on the left side. So we can duplicate it very easy if we tap on duplicate layer. That's the whole magic. And after that, we can use our transformation tool to move it down here. So maybe something like this. Let me compare it with our other class. Perfect. That's the same height. So we can compare it after we sketched it. That's the first result we need. Perfect. By the way, this task is a perfect, or this strategy we use now is a perfect example for all the advantages we have here in digital illustration. So you don't have to draw perfect ellipses or to draw a whole afternoon perfect lines to make it perfect. I know that could be a task later on if you're a little bit more advanced in sketching, but in the beginning it's all about the motivation, all about things that are cool and you would like to learn stuff. So the motivation is a major part, and if there are different drawing aids you can use them. And after that, if you would like to sketch the whole illustration with your hands, and if you want to practice, you can do that later on. So that's only a short information or short motivation for you. Feel free to use all the adjustments and all the aids and assistance you have here, all the grids. That's super important. And if you want to create the same ellipse, for example, feel free to duplicate it. It's nothing bad. You don't have to create all that stuff by hand. You can duplicate it and you can work with it. That's absolutely fine, especially in the beginning where it's all about composing, understanding things, and that's more important than drawing the perfect line. But let's continue again with our sketch right here. We don't make the same mistake. And you can see I try to avoid our first mistake from our first sketch we saw before. So right here, I integrated this small gap because a glass of water is a physical object. So we need to see it as it. So we have this small gap right here to see the material and to get a feeling. So we avoid the mistake that the ellipse touches our outlines of our glass of water. So that's a perfect start. Two ellipses, same size. Down here, it's a little bit scaled down, and we have the liquid we're going to create right here, and the glass on our outline. The first thing I would like to change now is that this object looks a little bit too perfect. So if you're looking at your glasses at home, you will see that there are always rounded edges or some details that are not perfect, like this down here. So this random edge. And I would like to use two lines. So we need the ruler again. We make a new layer. And I draw them, first of all, down here. So we can see that it's the same distance we have down here to the outside and also on the left side. And now I duplicate again. I have to see which of those layer it is. It's that one. I duplicate it and I change the size a little bit. So maybe something like this would look pretty cool. maybe something like this. And now I'll try to link both ellipses with a curve. And really important, I guess you saw it if you're new in Adobe Fresco, or if you're sketching the first time or using those apps, with 2 points you can rotate the whole image, and that's always a little bit easier. So my old math teacher told me always we have a natural circle, so we can use it, but if I would like to draw this line, I have to make something like this, and to avoid it we can rotate with 2 fingers the whole canvas. And now you can see that we have a liquid inside that has this rounded edge down here. If we want to have a perfect symmetrical illustration, we could use a very easy strategy. We work with the duplication feature in the beginning. We have different options, so we can flip it. And as you can see here, because we worked very symmetrical so far, we have the same edge right here. We can use the eraser to erase all the unimportant stuff we duplicated as well. And now you can see right here, we have only this detail down here, and it's symmetrical. Same thing we can do with the bottom of our glass. So I have to find out which ellipse is the right one. So maybe that would be the perfect stage to give those layers a few names to organize it a little bit better, but we're going to make it. I guess that is almost the last ellipse we have to duplicate here, but it's like the first grid we create to make the drawing a little bit easier. Same procedure with these edges. So we integrate a rounded corner. Yes, that looks pretty cool. We can duplicate it and we can flip it up here, change it, or change the position, move it to the left, and now we have a perfect glass. Now it's time to clean up our artwork or our layer menu up here, so we can merge down all the details we need for our glass and for our liquid. So for example, right here we have all the important ellipses and drawings. I delete my first adjustment ellipse. We have this rounded edges, but that's the glass. And with a tap on our layer, we can merge it down. So we'll have it on the same layer. You can see it here. We need those 2 lines. I guess, yes, these 2, merge them down. So we have the whole liquid on one layer. So we can easily change the position separately. And that's super easy, especially when we're trying to improve the sketch later on. Same with all the other details. So I'm going to merge them down. If we have separated our liquid, obviously all the other elements are part of the glass, so we can use them right here. And now with all the lines. Very important, I was a little bit too quick here, deleting all the details. We can delete also this ellipse down here. That was our first one we used. And we can erase it. Or you can delete it before you merge all those layers. So we have something that looks like this. Pretty cool. Very good first step. Maybe we can reduce the space between the bottom of our liquid and the bottom of our glass so that it doesn't look like this. I guess it should be a little bit thinner. Maybe something like this. That should work perfect. Now it's time to create a little bit more perspective. So we need shadows, we need a few more details, and we would like to understand the object. So it's a glass, and we have to integrate a few special details that our brain understands that it's not an outline or a quick sketch, so it's more realistic. And for that, I guess I don't promise something wrong, and we need our last ellipse. So up here I used this ellipse to create this inner line of our glass. So maybe something like this. Let me take a look. I guess that should work. We can also use a ruler to draw those lines. But I always try to use a thinner, maybe not that perfect line, something like this. A little bit brighter for the inner line. So we have this outline out there to visualize the whole object, and because we don't have, or we can't see this inner line, if we look at our glass, we see the line up here, but it's super hard to see the line down here. But I would like to use it or integrate it in my sketch, or you can also make it a little bit unperfect to make it more realistic. So we use the eraser tool. You see this effect in a few seconds. So that could be a cool effect to make your drawing or your sketch even more realistic. So we have this very straight and thick and dark outline, and our brain has another connection point with this unperfect line in the inner side. So it looks a little bit more realistic. Our brain can connect these details. Yes, so it looks like this. Another important part, we need to define our surface. So for example, in this world, we only have a right table or something like this, and we have a top perspective on our glass, but very important, I create a new layer. We have kind of shadow, because without a shadow, we don't have a connection to our surface. So we can define the light situation, for example. So I drop a quick shadow. It hasn't to be perfect, only a few lines. We use our two fingers to rotate the whole artwork again. Maybe something about 45 or 90 degrees to create a very quick shadow. And this shadow is below the glass right here and on our surface down there, and it goes a little bit on our right. So maybe the light source is somewhere like here. So you can draw a cute sun in the corner if you want to use this light source. And if we would like to make it perfect, it would be something like here. So maybe, so if we draw a line up here, maybe our sun is somewhere here. But light sources and all that stuff, shadows, is a very important lesson in my online course. Here only a quick sketch. If you want to learn more, check the online courses or the whole sketching course. You'll learn a lot about this topic. And of course, we also need for our liquid. So I open the specific layer. It's also very cool to have a few details that could be even more realistic, and we give it a perspective. Perfect. That's a great upgrade compared to our first sketch we had before. Now we can try to transform this object and to make it a little bit more dynamic. So you can add in your sketch, because sketching is all about your ideas and your perspective, your ideas. We would like to make it a little bit more interesting, and we can start with the surface. So everything we have right here. At the moment, it's absolutely right. If we have a glass of water and we place it on our table, the surface is very straight, but on the other hand, also a little bit boring. So I would like to change that. I zoom a little bit in and I make a point up here, a second point directly here on my surface, and another point maybe down here. And now it's a little bit easier if you rotate this surface again. I draw a line. that is, yeah, like a curve. So this wave or this curve should make our glass way more dynamic and, on the other hand, also interesting. So you don't have to use this method in every illustration or in every sketch, but it could be very interesting if we would like to change the position. It's the same if we talk about characters. So you can place them right there and they stand in a normal position, or you try to combine it with some interesting movement or some interesting positions. Then it looks even more realistic. So for example, running person is always obviously more dynamic than a standing still person. So that could be a very interesting element for you too. Same on the line in the back. So this goes up in the same way we go down here. So for example, something like this. And of course, we have to go up right there. And here again, we can use the eraser to make it perfect. We don't have to draw perfect lines or a very straight line. We can redraw it again and again till we think it's perfect. So that's really important for your personal motivation. You don't have to draw a perfect line. You can erase it, you can draw it again, you can erase it, draw it again, till you are happy with the final result. It's not like a piece of paper that is super easy to go a step backwards or forward. So really, really easy. So maybe something like this would look pretty cool. You can see that sometimes my lines are a little bit thicker. So I try to sketch it a little bit, draw a few lines till the perfect one is with me and the sketch. And then I work on all the details. So something like this. Maybe if you would like to separate the surface a little bit from the whole drink itself, you can work with a first very, very bright sketch. You can work with a very bright sketch to underline these details. Another cool trick could be to work on those lines that are, like behind the object. So for example, this line is behind our liquid, or this line down here. And also this line of our first ellipse we drew is behind our glass. So we can use the same strategy we used before for those thinner lines to underline or to erase and reduce the perspective. So for example, we have our drink right here. We can erase this line to make it a little bit brighter, or we interrupt the whole line with our eraser, something like this. So you could say that we destroy the line, but that gives us a perfect, in my opinion, perfect perspective if we look through the whole object. So this line in the front, we can see it, it's here, so it's a little bit thicker, and the line we don't see is interrupted, it's brighter, it's unperfect here in the background. And we can do the same with this one right here. So feel free to experiment a little bit. Maybe we can erase a gap and our brain is going to complete it. So you can see it right here. It's super thin, but all the lines that are here in our foreground and that are important, we'll draw it in a with a thick line. So that should be really cool. Down here we can use this strategy again. I have to find the right layer. I have to find the overview first before I can work on it, obviously. Yeah, that's the right one. So we can use it again. A few unperfect details. This strategy is going to make your sketch even more realistic. Maybe we need, yeah. I guess this strategy should make your sketch even more realistic. So let's compare it with our sketch we worked on before, or our very, very quick scribble. So you can see it here, a little bit better, more dynamic in our glass with our liquid, and also the glass has a better perspective. Now we can add a few more details. I know it's environmentally a super bad thing, so don't try this at home, don't have it at home. But we would like to add a straw to our sketch. We can also add ice cubes or things that interact with our drawing. That is always super interesting and gives our object some things to interact with. I'll show you how I mean it. We can create a new layer, an empty one. We need our ruler, so we'll pick it. I would like to change the position a little bit, and we start with our straw. So for example, very easy, 2 lines. Down here you can also duplicate it, but I guess it should be no problem to move our ruler. We can draw the ellipse up here with your hand, or you can also use the drawing aid again. So this should be a perfect straw for our glass, and now we can move it and we can put it here in our iced tea, cola, or whatever glass. We can transform it a little bit if we want to stretch it. Something like this should work. And now the magic starts. We can duplicate this layer, super important, before we're working on this one. We can use the eye icon and we can make it invisible, and we erase everything that is down here in our drink. So we can delete it. Now we can tap on the eye again for our second layer. So we duplicated it and we make exactly the opposite. So we erase everything that is out of the water, something like this. And now you'll see, or I guess you should already know what I try to do here. We can rotate our straw a little bit, that is below the water. And we can change the position, so a little bit to the right, and we get a perfect look. Maybe we can rotate it a little bit backwards, so something like this, and we have this perfect water transition where the surface is to underline our object or to explain the object. That's super helpful. If we add other elements, we can talk a little bit more, or we can tell a little bit more about all the behavior of our material. So let's change that, and we can use another layer down here. We can pick the background color, for example here, and we can pick a random brush to make all the lines that are behind our straw, because we don't see it, but I don't want to erase it. That would be another option, but I would like to have this line so I don't have to destroy all my other sketches or all the other layers. So that could be a clever strategy, hopefully. And I talked about the behavior of a material or of an object. We can also add, for example, tiny details like this one. So we can work with a few reflections or visual elements. For example, right here, the edge of our glass looks very cool if we draw it like this. So that's super cool. And we can work here on a few more objects. So for example, we can draw a cube. More about cubes and perspectives, I guess you know it in my online classes, but maybe a quick sketch of a cube, something like this. And we can place it in a few seconds in our glass of iced tea. So we have another detail that makes it a little bit more realistic, maybe a second one in another perspective. We could also easily duplicate the cube we drew before, but I guess it's cool to draw a second one in another perspective. Here it's a smaller one, so we have to make it a little bit bigger. But that's perfect. Maybe a overlapping space. That should be cool. And now we can merge them down, or we can combine both layers and we can move them here in our glass. Really cool. That's perfect. And now I can share one last final detail and then we finished this really cool sketch. If we're under the water, we can easily change, for example, the physicality of our objects. So we'll start with the ice cubes. I guess that should be really cool. So if we have those ice cubes, we can delete a few of those lines. For example, this one right here. And we can redraw it right there. So we can draw completely new rules, or we can destroy objects. That's another option. So for example, we take a look at this draw. We can draw something like this. So we can destroy it, we can erase it. This line is the same we did before with our lines we can't see here in the foreground. And we can add some details or kind of a distortion effect here. We can also work with the transparency, so maybe that is also interesting, so that all the things that are in the liquid are so maybe something like this. So that could be a cool effect to make our drink a little bit more realistic. So that could be pretty cool as well, maybe something like this. And we can do the same with our ice cubes, and that would be the last final detail. And then we are finished with this sketch. So if we do, or if we use this effect with our straw, we also have to change our cubes again. So we destroy our drawing. So we destroy our drawing, but we create a cool effect. Very important, all the lines have to be vertically, so we don't have something like this in here or some other rotation angles. So we're working on the same vertical line, so it looks more realistic in the drawing at the end. I guess something like this should look cool. Our last lines up here, and then you can see what we've created. A perfect drink. So that was our lesson for today. Quick summary. That was our starting point. We started from the bottom, now we're here. So we created this iced tea, liquid, glass of water, whatever. And we added a new perspective to it. We integrated a few more shadows. We worked on dynamic elements like this wave, like this curve. So it's a little bit more action in our drawing to make it more interesting. We worked with shadows, I said that before, I guess. And we integrated new objects like straws, ice cubes that make it a little bit more realistic. And now it's up to you. Would you like to learn sketching from scratch or Procreate and Adobe Illustrator? Feel free to join our classes and our online courses. I can't wait to see your results and your artworks. We prepared also 2 other lessons about Procreate and Adobe Illustrator. Both test lessons are for free, so you can get a feeling about the quality of those courses and my skills as a teacher. So I hope you liked and enjoyed this lesson. We also have a cool Discord server where you can ask your questions if you're part of the online course group. So it makes definitely sense to check them out, and I would love to see you there. And if you have any questions about the courses, about the drawing or sketch we did here, don't hesitate to write a mail or to ask your question in the Instagram DMs. Yes, that's it. Beautiful sketch. Awesome that you joined this lesson. I hope you really enjoyed it. And now stay creative.